Good afternoon. My name is Robert Depper. I am the chair of the Burlington Police Commission, calling this meeting to order. It appears that we have a quorum, but I'm going to do the roll call and ensure that. First, I'm going to start online with our commissioners that are appearing by Zoom. I see Commissioner Mary Cox, and commissioners, if when I call your name, if you could acknowledge your presence for the record, please. I see Commissioner Mary Cox is online.
I'm here.
She indicates here. I see Commissioner Finneran, Michaela Finneran is online.
Here.
I see Commissioner Tessa Brooks-Fast is online.
Here.
Okay. And Commissioner Genorio.
I'm here.
And of course, my name's Robert Depper, and I am here as well. It appears we do have a quorum. So the first order of business is the agenda. Are there any additions or modifications to the agenda? Hearing none. Moving on. Is there a motion to adopt the previous meeting's minutes?
I'd like to propose an addition
Okay, please go ahead.
to section 4.5, something to the effect of commissioners propose that the complaints committee members serve for a specific period, for example, 1 year, and rotate so that all commission members will serve during their term.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Genorio. Is there any objection to that?
I'm sorry, I missed part of what was said. Could it be repeated, please?
Sure.
I'd like to add something to section 4.5, which is when we were discussing the complaints committee. And I'd like to add, commissioners proposed that complaints committee members serve for a specific period, for example, 1 year, and rotate so that all commission members serve during their term.
Commissioner Cox, were you able to, did you hear that this time?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, excellent. Is there any objection to that additional language to the agenda, or I'm sorry, to the previous meeting's minutes? All right. Hearing none, all those in favor of the addition say aye.
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 Okay, appears the ayes have. All those opposed?
Chair Depper.
Yes. Yes, Commissioner Cox.
Commissioner Comerford has also joined.
Yes, ma'am, I did see that. I just wanted to finish this real quick, and then I was going to acknowledge her and add her to the quorum. All right, so those opposed to the addition, to the additional language to the minutes proposed by Commissioner Genorio, say aye. Hearing none, motion passes. And hi, Commissioner Comerford. I just wanted to acknowledge for the record that you have come on now, so we have everybody but Commissioner Paul here. So thank you very much for joining us. The next item of business is the public being invited to address the commission. There is no one in the room that fits that definition. Is there anyone online? There does not appear to be anyone online. That being the case, we will close public forum. The next item of business is committee reports from all committees. And the only committee we have in operation right now is the Complaints Committee. At this point, we have pulled and collated all the complaints that we have. They've been distributed to the committee members, myself, Commissioner Genorio, Commissioner Finneran. Commissioner Genorio, you and I had talked about how to hold a committee meeting. I did meet, or over email, did talk to the city attorney's office about that. They did indicate that we did need to warn it. So if we want to warn it for a special meeting here in the next couple of weeks, then we can just throw together an agenda and do that, if that's all right.
How long in advance does it need to be warned?
For a special meeting, I believe it's only 24 hours.
Okay, so not a huge deal. It doesn't need to be weeks ahead of time.
Right,
Okay.
exactly. So we should be able to turn that around pretty quick.
Excellent.
That is the only committee report that I'm aware of. The only other point of information, I think this kind of goes under committees. I did have a conversation. We talked over the past few months about some modifications to the website, making it a little more accessible, easier to navigate. I did have a meeting with Scott Barker with City IT this morning, and we talked a little bit about, some updates like the Meet Your Commissioner has the older the previous commissioner, some of the previous, not everybody, the previous commissioners' bios and pictures on there, and we talked about updating that and doing some basic tweaks to the website to make sure that all the links are working and it's, clearly navigable. So we have started that process. If anybody, this includes the public, if anyone decides to watch this later, but if anyone has any suggestions about the website, there are, some limits to it just by virtue of the fact of how they built the website through a third-party vendor. But if there are items, particularly items that would make, navigation easier or easier to understand, or, documents that you think would be necessary to add, please let me know, and, we can, certainly send those to Mr. Barker. And he was actually going to, Chief, he was going to reach out to your department to kind of figure out who was tasked with that, with the website maintenance now. I know y'all have had a lot of turnover and a lot of things going on, so he was just going to reach out and try to figure that out. Okay. Other than that, I don't have anything else. Does anybody else have anything they want to add for committee reports? Commissioner Cox, I see you came off mute. And there's your hand. Okay.
So in previous years, and this kind of fell apart when Commissioner Keefe left, but the complaints and all of the information had been posted to the shared website, a shared, working site. And I was wondering if you were going to post all of these complaints there so that we could look at the information.
I don't have a problem posting the complaints to the shared, to the SharePoint site. I don't know that everyone has been onboarded to that site. So I want to make sure, and I can send out an email later, just to ping everyone and make sure that everyone's been onboarded to the site and that everyone can access it first. Does that work for you? Commissioner Cox, does that work for you?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, for sure, no problem. Thank you for that flag. Any other comments, issues? Okay. Yes, Commissioner Comerford, you're on mute. Still on mute, I'm sorry, we can't hear you.
I said I have a brand new computer, it's 1 day old, and I'm still trying to learn how to navigate it. My question is, in terms of complaints, what is our policy? Is the policy that only the committee does the looking for that, or is it all the commissioners do it? That's what I've been used to for many years, but I don't know what our latest situation is with that.
Well, I can only really speak to my understanding, and if anyone has a different perspective, please let me know. My understanding was that we put together the committee that was going to take a first round look at these to kind of coordinate what we might, forward on or elevate, to the rest of the commission. But I think, as Commissioner Cox pointed out, we can put these on SharePoint, so anyone who wants to on the committee can review them. I don't have a quick answer for you. I think policy would really be overstating the matter a lot, at least for me. So I think it's kind of a work in progress from my perspective, and if you think such a policy would be appropriate, I don't have a problem with that.
I can just say, rather than policy, the practice. What is our ongoing practice? And you basically shared that at this point. So
Okay.
after the committee looks at the camera stuff, what happens next?
I mean, that's a good question, and since we haven't had I was kind of waiting for our first committee meeting to
Okay,
kind
fair
of
enough.
flesh all that out and, have a more rounded discussion about it.
Fair enough, thank you.
My understanding when we talked about it at last meeting was that, for a while, it seemed like complaints were allocated to, everybody had access to all of the files, and they were kind of allocated certain people to look at them and then make any comments that they had, and it seemed like that got unwieldy at some point, and perhaps keeping the same access that anybody can review at any time, but there's certain rolling members of the commission that are responsible for responding within a reasonable time frame. I think that was my understanding of what the subcommittee was for.
A much more succinct rendering, thank you.
And what was the time frame that seemed reasonable, just so I have an idea?
A time frame for review or the time
For
frame for
review,
the?
for review.
We haven't discussed that yet that I'm aware of.
I will not ask one more question about this until you have your subcommittee meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
No problem. Yes, sir.
If I may, just
Please.
a suggestion. So the complaints, as you're well aware, are received not only by you, Chair Depper, but the Burlington Police Department command staff as well. The complaints that we elevate to one of 3 levels of review, either being a supervisory review, administrative review, or an internal affairs investigation, that work has been done. I would encourage you to engage Deputy Chief Labarge on the initial pass of these complaints with the subcommittee, because I believe that he will have very succinct answers for you and any supporting documentation as to how we've resolved anything of substance.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chief. And when we do schedule our subcommittee meeting, would it be appropriate for me to give Deputy Chief Labarge a heads up for him to attend and help us kind of talk through some of these logistical issues?
Yes, please reach out directly to him.
Okay, will do.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much for that being the case. Unless anyone has any other comments or questions. Yes, Commissioner Cox, I see your hand is up.
So the one difference is if the chief has taken some action on a complaint, and then we have the time limits of 14 days, he has to bring it to us, tell us what he decided, then we get that 14-day triggered. So it is a little bit different on those cases.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments from the commission?
I guess I would add that it might be helpful for everyone to see them for a period of time, just so you learn how to actually understand what you're looking at, because it's an interesting and challenging process to be able to focus on what's actually happening and then talk to other people about it and get a sense of what they're seeing in the situation. So maybe this is not the time, but like in the future, I think it's important for everyone to, as a group, maybe look at 2 or 3 of them that the subcommittee finds interesting and challenging, just so we can all learn together about how you actually entertain that process. A suggestion.
Okay, thank you very much, Commissioner Comerford.
I really like that idea too. Thanks for raising that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anybody else? No? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on from committee reports to directive review. As the commission is aware, we have 2 directives to review. There's DD 14.1, body-worn camera systems, and DD 29, online crime reporting. I'll start with DD 14.1, body-worn camera systems. Has everyone had an opportunity, I guess we'll do it like this. Has everyone had an opportunity to review and digest these directives, or at least 14.1, or asked a different way and maybe a clearer way? Has anyone not had an opportunity to review it? Okay, I'm going to assume everybody has then. DD 14.1, is there a motion to accept or any discussion on 14.1 before we move on? Yes, Commissioner Janorio.
I think Mary had her hand up first.
Yes, Commissioner Cox.
Thank you. It's really a question directed towards Chief Burke. We had under Chief Murad, under an agreement between the commission and the BPOA for us to view body cam footage on use of force incidents, not just for the actual use of force snippet, but the entire videos related to that incident, related to, you know, all different directives. So it may be that this one's saying to raise the issue of language barriers, or this one seemed to raise the issue of someone with disabilities or mental health conditions, or different issues might be raised in a particular incident. The idea being, though, is that we're reviewing them with a goal towards looking at it from a helicopter viewpoint, and not that it wouldn't be with any view towards punishing any officer or speaking bad about officers, but just looking to see what happened and see if we could glean something, and maybe even make suggestions from our perspective as community members, or ask. We never really got the process ironed out smoothly. We tried it one time and it didn't work out at all how the commission at least had envisioned it. But I was wondering if there was, in your mind, is there anything in the body worn camera directive that would prohibit that if the BPOA and the commission wanted to effectively renew that policy?
Thank you for that question. The policy that you reference is still posted on the Police Commission website. I would assume that that is still actionable policy. I know that the BPOA is aware of that history and has reviewed the current body-worn camera policy in draft form before you tonight, which is the state of Vermont model policy, and it's one of the mandatory model policies. So really what I've offered here is formatted and edited for Burlington PD, the Vermont state model policy as it pertains to body-worn camera operation, and then how we have our retention of records set up on the back end of that to comply with the public records law.
Thank you, Chief. I understood the purpose of the directive, and I don't have any problems at all with the directive as you set forth. I just was asking sort of, can those two things coexist in your mind?
I read that policy on the Police Commission's website just this afternoon. I understand, I have clarity on it. I think it's actionable for cases that warrant Police Commission review, that you would have access to the relevant body-worn camera video footage.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Commissioner Cox. Thank you, Chief. Commissioner Genorio?
Thank you. I wanted to say thanks to Chief Berg for taking the time to update it very nicely to become in line with the Vermont Criminal Justice Council policy. It really looks like you put a lot of work into it. I'm generally really conflicted about body-worn camera technology in general. So if you'll hear me out for a minute, I can maybe give you my opinion before I ask questions so it doesn't seem like they're out of the blue. You and other police officers, people who have chosen this profession, can leave it at any time, but we as the public don't really get to consent to just being filmed, going about our daily lives, whatever we're doing. This footage, like most of the systems that are used, like Axon, get uploaded to the cloud. Some third party, some giant corporation holds on to that data. I'm sure they don't have our best interests at heart. They have their shareholders' best interests at heart. That's just how they work. So I feel that this technology is definitely a loss of privacy to the public. Like many things that our culture has come to accept under the guise of some kind of convenience or security, it's just something that we have now. I'd like to think most of us would agree that we want to live in a society with less government surveillance, with less violence, including violence committed by employees of the state. And I used to believe that this technology was a net positive, that the transparency and accountability outweighed this loss of privacy. But I did some research and digging in when you sent this updated directive over, because I wanted to make sure that I understood it. And I'm not so sure that that's the case. Since the explosion of this technology about 10 years ago, there have only been a greater number of deaths caused by police each subsequent year, and there hasn't been a substantial increase in criminal prosecution of these officers, so it doesn't, at least yet, seem to have much of a reforming effect on the national scale. I spoke with someone who's currently on the Vermont Criminal Justice Council, and that they said they've seen an increase in police officer decertification, possibly due to body cam footage being used as evidence of wrongdoing. So there might be an increase in accountability statewide on that front, but there's not like an easily available list of who's been decertified or why, and that complaints process. So it's not really a big change on the transparency front. And when I think back to the use of force incidents that have eroded trust in our little city, there seems to be a pattern that the incidents is caught on body cam, and at some point, usually soon thereafter, the footage is released. Folks who watch it online or on the news get outraged, but no criminal charges are brought. Then usually, years later, sometimes it's brought back into the media, sometimes not. The city, our tax money, ends up paying millions of dollars collectively, none of them exactly have been $1 million, to settle civil cases. But there's no real accountability there. So I completely understand that the use of this technology is not wholly or in any way in your control, and I don't want you to take any of my comments as blaming you or the BPD, but this background is kind of where I got when I started to review this directive. So mostly I just have some questions about what exactly the language means and how that would actually interact with the public. In section 3E, there's some like buts and exceptions, and I was hoping you could maybe clarify for me how that system works. And if it would be helpful for me to read it.
So is that agency shall not
Yes.
run recordings through facial recognition?
And then it says, except for automated redaction processes, which are not for the purpose of identification or comparison to any other source. And I just I don't know how the technology works, but it seems like not using that is at the beginning, but then there's the time that it would be used. And
Right, so what this is trying to highlight is that we're not allowed to run our body-worn camera footage through any facial recognition software for purposes of IDing or making identification of people. But the suite, so we happen to be in the Axon space, so that platform is called evidence.com. The redaction software uses AI to find whatever we need to redact throughout the entire selected video for efficiency. That is done by a human and verified by a human. We're fortunate enough to have a redaction specialist on staff, but that's the limit as to what we can use facial recognition for. It's actually just technology that is based within the application itself to do the redaction, so then we can share appropriately within the law the film with, whether it's we're preparing that for court or in response to a public records request, or perhaps a proceeding before the police commission.
so it's the same software used for identifying people, but it's only used in the instance of redacting this video, and that is reviewed by a person, and then it's put out to whatever people are going to see it.
I am not a software engineer.
Me neither.
Or anywhere near an expert in AI, but I think I agree with what you just said.
Okay.
I mean, essentially, we are not running film through a government database of names to match names with people that we have captured on film.
Okay.
That's prohibited.
Thank you. And then in section 2G, which is the kind of section mentioning officers notifying folks of a recording, and then, basically deciding like, should I still be here and do I still need to record? It was unclear to me if they can just turn it off, similar to how it's called out in section 3A, or not.
So you're in G,
I'm in 2G.
okay? Oh, under prohibitions. What page of the policy are you on?
3.
3.
Yeah, prior to entering a private residence or premise where there's a reasonable expectation of privacy without warrant or non-exigent circumstances, an officer shall notify the occupants of use of the body camera.
Correct. So this was debated at length by the council when they were having their deliberations about this policy language and trying to balance the expectations really at the time of police officers filming these encounters with members of the public with really the areas of interest in terms of privacy in our most private areas in our home. So this is the policy language that they have landed upon, but what we needed was some type of affirmative action that officers could take, that if we respond to a call for service and we are lawfully in someone's home and the body camera is running, if a person absolutely demands that the officers stop running that camera, that's cause for suspicion for a lot of different reasons, because then a lot of accusations can be made. So what the officer needs to do is determine whether or not we actually need to be there. So is there any exigent circumstance? Is there any criminal activity afoot? Any evidence that we have to preserve? Or is this a call for service in which we can walk away from? And this is the policy language that the council landed upon. And really, all of their deliberations were just poorly summarized by myself. There was a lot of thought put into this language, and I can understand why it may be a little confusing.
Yeah, it's confusing to me because it seems like the options are the person's like, I don't want to be recorded in my home, and they're like, well, I don't really need to be here, and they leave. Situation solved, whatever. They do need to be there, and they keep recording. Those are the two options. But then looking at 3A, officers shall, upon the request of a victim of domestic or sexual violence, stop recording, provided the scene has been stabilized and made safe following initial response. So if you go to somebody's home and you're recording one of these situations and they're like, hey, I don't want to be filmed, there is a situation or perhaps, multiple situations in which they would turn it off. Is that correct?
Certainly. So again, this is the work of a large criminal justice council. There's 27 members. And the carve-out that you're talking about here is specific to in incidents involving domestic or sexual violence, and the survivors requesting that the officers end that turn off their recording devices. And for a lot of good reasons, the advocate community was really passionate about this, and this is the language that they decided upon. So this is really specific to two types of incidents where we might be in someone's home, where we will turn the camera off, but continue to take the statement from the survivor as they're willing.
And in any of these instances, the officer is not telling the person, you have the right to request that I stop recording. That's not something that they do?
So again, this is a point that was deliberated a lot in whether or not these are definitely not surreptitious recordings. The devices are super apparent, and it's an expectation that we are outfitted with this technology. So I appreciate kind of your caution around, is this really an enhancement of government surveillance? What's it really doing? But I will tell you that when this technology came into the field, it was really a call from the public that police departments adopt it. And there was a loud call here in Burlington that we adopt it.
Yes.
So now, once the technology is out, like every other technology that government uses. We're trying to balance the policy interests with this. And of course, in Vermont, this policy was one that was delegated to the Vermont Criminal Justice Council to issue a mandatory model policy. And this is the language that they landed upon.
Yeah. I know that body camera technology was being developed for a long time and was definitely in the law enforcement sphere as a tool that many people in many different municipal state sectors wanted to use for a long time. However, it's a big expense, and most, cities, states were not going to foot the bill for that. And then there was a real narrative change around 2014, 2015, when some high-profile incidents came to light, whereby these companies pretty quickly realized if they shifted the narrative that this is a progressive measure, reforms will result from this. And then, money magicked itself from the government for a lot of states and municipalities to invest in this. That was in the under Obama. And I would just like to make sure that that frame is kept, that it was not just progressive people pushing for this and police officers didn't want the technology. It was kind of the other way, and then the narrative got flipped. At least that's from the research that I've done.
I'm not going to disagree with that perception, but I will tell you that having been a cop long before body-worn camera technology, that it really wasn't a call from police officers as individuals to be equipped.
Oh, yeah, I believe that,
So,
for sure.
right, but I will tell you as a practitioner that the benefits of this technology really have been amazing in terms of evidence collection and preservation. I do feel that there's been accountability both for government actors and for the public at large. There's been a lot of accusations made about officers being rude or other encounters not going so great. And when you review the film and invite someone in to see it, if they want to, really persist with the complaint, a lot of those folks don't continue down that road because this is an independent record, which is very helpful. It's also very helpful in how we can train. When you think about some of our most elite athletic programs, whether they're professional or collegiate programs, what's the first thing that they do on Monday after a game day? They watch game film. And we can learn a lot and improve in terms of training, technologies, how we approach different situations by unpacking things that we've actually done in our local communities. So I do feel that this is a really valuable tool that we have, and that it's one that the Burlington Police, frankly, use responsibly.
I agree that it definitely has the potential to be a powerful tool and can be good. And I think my intent of reviewing this directive and the questions and comments that I have are to try to really clarify that it is used that way, and that officers that way people know this is the intent, and that there's less opportunity for misuse. One of my last questions I have on there, which is something I spoke about with a person from the Vermont Criminal Justice Council that I called and spoke to. In sections 2E through F, there's lots of specifics about exactly when the officer should turn on their camera, and then some about when it should not be turned on. And so in an attempt to protect against intentional misuse, I was wondering if there were specific times, specific geographical areas, some additional literal or metaphysical boundary for which body-worn cameras would be on. Like, just reading the directive as it is, you might not anticipate a confrontation, you might be in your vehicle, you might, X, Y, Z, and your camera wouldn't be on. But if you're walking down Church Street, even in the middle of the night, somebody could walk up to you, something could happen. And I'm thinking about situations like that in my profession, which is not at all related. But if you look at zoning code, we have all these designations for downtown corridor, this or that, and that I think it would be a potential benefit to have additional measures where it's just an expectation that it is on. Do you think that that's reasonable?
I'm a little confused because I thought your initial concern was about like constant omni-government surveillance.
That is my concern. And as you've mentioned, we're kind of already at the point where we have this technology and it's not going away. So right now, my concern is making sure that because the public can't really consent to generally being filmed when we're in public by body-worn cameras worn by police officers, that we reduce the potential for misuse. Because as you've said, and at least in the limited research that I've done, there's huge evidence to show that this footage is used to prosecute people, especially for petty crimes, and as you've said, to assuage people's concerns about some officer misconduct, because there is a record, but that has not prevented, at least on a national scale, people intentionally misusing this by turning it off during opportune moments, or I'm sure you're familiar with any situation that it could be misused. So my intent is to try to balance those a little bit and make sure that the people who can't consent to it have the most protections, whereas the people who are operating it, literally your point of view that is being recorded, is done so in, as appropriate a manner as possible.
Sure, I appreciate that. Just to kind of unpack a little bit of that, I mean, these are on every police incident, so it's not just they're selectively used for petty crimes, and in fact, they've been of extraordinary value in violent felony investigations. To get to your point about should they be on just because we happen to be in a geographic location, no. There's no reason to have it on unless we're going to be interacting with a member of the public. And in instances where something surprising may happen, that's why the policy language of a buffer exists. So the camera is actually recording all of the time in a lower resolution without audio because of the limitations of the battery technology. So every 30 seconds, it's looping over itself. So when the officer does depress the event button, the on button, that is captured as well. And that lead-in typically will capture anything that in a surprising manner comes on the officer. But in a similar regard, that's why the policy is written that the officers are expected to turn it on as soon as safely or reasonably expected, because the officer could be wandering down Church Street doing a foot patrol in the middle of the night, and then suddenly someone assails them, from a vestibule, and they may not have the opportunity to turn that on, or they may suddenly come upon a violent encounter and have to intercede to provide life-saving measures, and they may not immediately have the opportunity to turn it on. The technology is as good as the human reaction. That's the reality of it. And I think that our use of this technology now for a number of years has been very judicious and very practical, and has shed more light on situations as opposed to pull the blinds on situations.
So in your opinion, those instances you just stated that could happen, in addition to, potential instances of misuse, you don't think that there are appropriate areas where it should just always be on?
No, I think it's very limiting in terms of how the technology actually works. So the size of the camera is always a challenge, and it's because of the battery. And to run that quality video constantly for hours upon hours for no apparent reason, that does not seem like a valid use of that technology.
Okay. And then I have one more.
Sure.
Which is 6I. Can you just clarify for me the humane destruction of an animal? Is that like a wild animal, a pet, both?
So oftentimes, we're called to end the life of an animal that's been injured, whether that's a domestic animal or a deer on 127, that type of functionality.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
That's all I got.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Janorio. Commissioner Comerford?
Yeah, I'd just like to add that there are members of our community who don't feel safe with the police, and this is also something that they've been requesting for a long time. And that's not, you know, a large majority, but there are enough people. There's been enough incidents where that have been problematic that this is also a protection for people who feel less safe for historical reasons with police.
Thank you, Commissioner Comerford. Any other questions or comments with regard to DD 14.1? Any amendments to offer? Hearing none, I would move to accept or approve DD 14.1 body-worn camera systems. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
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 Okay. That appears to be unanimous. That passes. The next one is DD 29, online crime reporting. Does anyone have any questions or comments with regard to DD 29, online crime reporting?
I do.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Can you just define for me some of these crimes, like A2?
Computer crime, that could be anything like a fraud scheme through an email or some type of other phishing.
Something that doesn't also, you know, I'm thinking of so many things that you would do on a computer that are actually like other crimes, but this is not those. It's not like sexual harassment or I don't know.
So perhaps an allegation like that or complaint like that may come into the portal. That's why we actually have the human review element built into this new process.
Okay. And can you also tell me the definition for 12, theft of rental property?
So that's actually an old statute. So if you think about when folks used to rent a DVD or maybe even rent a piece of construction equipment, that type of crime would be referred to the online portal.
And that's kind of assumed that like a burglary or whatever it was, like the owner is going to report that separately or differently, or is that not burglary or petite larceny?
No, so that's a specific crime category of itself. It's got its own elements. Burglaries we go to in person, larceny either from a car or from a porch, whatever else. We're taking those either via phone or in person.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Thank you, Commissioner Janorio and Chief Burke. Any other questions or comments with regard to DD 29? Any amendments to offer? Hearing none, I would move that we approve DD 29, online crime reporting is written. Do I hear a second?
I second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Brooks Fast, it appears you're still on mute, but I saw you come on quickly.
Oh, yeah, aye. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. It appears to be unanimous. That passes. And thank you very much for your descriptions and explanation, Chief Burke.
I appreciate the thoughtful consideration in advancing these directives.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate the conversation around it. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda, the retreat agenda discussion. So discussing potential speakers and potential topics. I will just open up the floor to both of those simultaneously in the interest of time. I will open that up to the commissioners. Does anyone have any particular perspective on potential speakers or potential topics?
I'd just like to follow up on the email that I sent to everybody a couple weeks ago after the last meeting.
Go ahead.
I wanted to thank Commissioner Paul, who isn't here tonight, for putting in the effort to set things up. I think it's a wonderful idea for us to get together as a group, discuss our hopes for the future of the commission, and kind of game plan our next steps. I have reservations about the only voices being in the room during this special meeting being commissioners and the BPD. Karen mentioned, one of the main topics for discussion is what compelled us to apply to the commission and some personal priorities. And as I was thinking about that and I started to jot it down, the first thing that came to mind was lobbying the state legislature to pass the voter-approved ballot item that grants kind of additional roles and responsibilities to the commission. And that was something that the previous chief and the BPOA have spoken out against several times. And that really gave me pause, considering those would be the only voices in the room. So while I greatly look forward to hearing the chief's priorities for the coming year and input from union reps, I'd prefer if that were just done at a regularly scheduled meeting or a special meeting that was specifically about that. I wanted to say thanks to Mary for sending me a really thoughtful email responding to my concerns about that. You brought up the NACL training, and I went back and I rewatched some of those YouTube videos from 2020. You mentioned that they really advocate for collaboration between the oversight board and the police, and that really being the only way that you're going to get everything, anything done. They also stress, the trainer says in the first video, that the most important principle of an oversight body is independence, and that she says any real or perceived bias on behalf of the public can result in a lack of trust or legitimacy. And that's just what I wanted to avoid with our special retreat. So I just want to reiterate, I'd prefer if it was just commission members and any admin staff that needed to be there, and regular public comment period. If folks of different opinion don't agree with that, then I would like to open up to invite other people who've maybe spoken at the commission in the past, who've worked to promote similar things: impartiality, transparency, accountability, all those things related to public safety, and given an equal voice.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Anybody else? Go ahead, Commissioner Comerford.
I welcome the opportunity to have a setting where we're not having to be incredibly careful about what we say to one another, and that we can get to know each other at a different level so that it makes the work easier. There were some very significant events that happened during my first 2 years, and which became even more challenging because of some of the dynamics that existed at that time. Those dynamics don't exist right now, but it just smooths the wheels a little bit to hear where each other is coming from. What is it that we want to, sort of contribute? Are there particular goals that we have for our membership on this committee? So for some of those reasons, I think it's important to limit the numbers of people and to really be able to talk to each other sort of a little bit out of the limelight.
Thank you, Commissioner Comerford. Commissioner Cox?
So I agree with Commissioner Comerford, and I think that, we have public comment availability during every meeting, and we rarely have anyone come and give comment. I'm very active in a number of organizations, and I get a lot of feedback from those organizations. Usually it's just not knowing enough about what the police are actually doing, good or bad, they just don't know. And so that definitely is something that I'd like more community engagement, and it's hopefully one of the topics I'd like to discuss at the retreat. It's how to get the word out about what the police are doing, what the police commission are doing, through, for example, the NPA meetings or different things, and so, but I was hoping to have this time. My understanding of it and my hope was that we'd have an opportunity to meet and get to know a little bit each other and the scattering of the members from the police department.
Thank you, Commissioner Cox. Anybody else?
Yeah, I also agree in terms of, I guess, understanding what our overall goals are. So if our goal in this first meeting is to, like people said, kind of get to know each other on more of a human level, become comfortable, like chat with folks that we're going to be working with over the next few years. I don't necessarily know if it's the time to jump in for like community involvement in that space. Though I love Julia, your Commissioner Giornio, your email and your thought and having community be involved. But I was just thinking like, oh, I haven't been in the same room as all the people at the same time. Like how can we start building a like strategic action plan or like understand what our roles and goals are and then bring community in if we haven't kind of all found that internal alignment first. So that feels like a good first step. And then love thinking about ways to like increase community involvement and attendance to these meetings. Again, I've only been at 2, so maybe there has been involvement and people joining in the past, but I would love to like think about strategies to increase that and that outreach too. But I love both ideas. It's just in terms of like pacing what we're doing first.
Thank you, Commissioner Brooks-Fast. Anybody else? Commissioner Comerford?
Yeah, just to say that I think things are going more smoothly. I'm knocking on wood as I say this, of course, but so people come to meetings when there's issues that are bothering them. And I think there's been a little bit of lull in that in the community lately. If something else pops up, you'll see more people coming, not massive amounts. I've never seen massive amounts, but there's been times when we've had 5 or 6 people, you know, who are pretty much talking about the same issue.
Nice, okay, that's super helpful.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners. Any other comments or suggestions? Okay. Thank you very much, Commissioners. I appreciate the discussion. I believe we can probably, you know, as Commissioner Paul and her kind of ad hoc committee put this together, I'm sure these will be, you know, excellent suggestions for them to work through. So thank you very much for that. If there's nothing else on that, we will move on to the next part of our agenda, the Chief's report. So Chief Burke, you're up.
Appreciate it. If it's okay, I'd like to have Deputy Chief John Young introduce himself. It's the first Police Commission meeting he's been able to attend.
Absolutely, please do. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here. My name is John Young. I retired from BPD in 2021 with about 21 years of experience here at BPD and went to the private sector for a few years. I felt like I missed the job quite a bit. Love BPD, love the Burlington community, and it's really a pleasure and honor to be here.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chief. It's a pleasure to have you. Thank you for coming tonight.
Right, and I think Shibe is going to help me out here. Can you increase the zoom on that slide, Shibe? Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Okay, so
Chief, just before you get started, could I interrupt for 1 second?
sure.
I was just going to say, I think that you have some like really nice graphs on these pages, but they're really, even enlarged like that, they're a little bit difficult for people to see. And people are, a lot of times, they don't want to go and read the thing. They just watch it on YouTube if they're interested in what's going on. And so I was wondering if you could get, I know you guys are way overworked, and so I don't want to put any additional burden on you, but if it's convenient, is there a way to put just the graphs or charts or that sort of thing onto slides that could be shown and more easily seen as you speak to them in future reports?
Certainly, we can figure out a format in which we can either post the content or share it. I will say that I was urged by a lot of community members and a lot of folks that are employed by the city to kind of follow the format that the fire department uses with their commissioner reports. And this is identical to the fire department format, and the data illustrations themselves actually do come to me in a slide format from the city data team. So we can probably figure out how to get both objectives done.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, of course. All right, so the chief's report this month is fairly succinct. We've had strong engagement from the business community as to the conditions in the downtown. So those really are the data sets that I focused on for this month's Police Commission report. Here is a basic illustration of the foot patrols that the BPD has been conducting in the downtown district. If you're not familiar with the downtown district, it's essentially from Pearl Street south to Maple Street, the lake up as far east as Union Street is roughly the patrol area. Again, a lion's share of these foot patrols, even over the years, are done on the Marketplace, City Hall Park, parking garage, or other hotspot areas. In previous summers, Cherry Street, Buell Street, and the library were definitely hotspots that have not presented themselves as such this summer. But what you'll see here is that through August 15th of this year, we have far exceeded previous years in the number of deployments downtown, and that's in response to the conditions in City Hall Park. There is a pretty strong narrative in the community right now that although officers, whether they're sworn officers or community service officers, are present in these spaces, that there's not a lot of enforcement occurring. And I've got some data that would suggest that that may not be exactly the case here that I'll share in just a moment. Before we flip into some more of the other data, I just want to remark that the community service officers, they do a remarkable job for us. There's a small cutout of incidents that they are quite useful for. They are a really powerful force multiplier in terms of putting a uniform in a space like City Hall Park or on Church Street when we don't have the sworn officers to do so. CSOs, as we call them, they can enforce city ordinances, but they do lack the authority to physically detain people that refuse to identify themselves or comply. So we do use body-worn camera technology to identify those folks. We take a snip of that film and put it on an email internally, and typically someone on staff will know who that person is, and we'll follow up and take whatever action that we need to keep the CSO's work legitimate and to try to help alleviate some of the crime and disorder downtown. Shiv, if you could go to the next illustration. This is a pretty simple graph here, and it's just charting the number of arrests the BPD has made over the last 5-year period in the downtown district. Again, the narrative that came out pretty strong last week was that we weren't enforcing the law. This graph shows clearly that we are filing a number of criminal charges with the criminal legal system. And what I like to highlight here is the leading arrest categories in this space are violation conditions of release. So these are people that have committed other crimes and have been released out into the community on pretrial conditions, violations of those, or unlawful trespass. So that's a big challenge and a complaint that we deal with on a regular basis. So our staff is doing that work and working with the prosecutor's office to adjudicate those cases. Shiv, can you flip over to the other data slides? Thank you. Yeah, that looks good. Thank you. So what's illustrated here, top BPD incident types. Again, this is in the downtown district. As you can see, the number of foot patrols over the previous 4-year average, we're up 84% in that space. Suspicious events, this is kind of a murky criminal justice data category. This could be anything from someone thinks they saw a drug deal, thinks they saw someone casing a car, was a little uneasy about something going on in their neighborhood. What is valuable about charting this, though, is that if people are reporting suspicious events, that means they feel unsafe for some reason. And it's really incumbent on public safety to get into those spaces and figure out actually what's going on and try to address the behavior that's making people feel uneasy. Directed patrols, I think I've defined this before, that's just a motorized patrol of an area of interest, whether that's Marketplace Parking Garage is a good example of that. We had a hotspot over on Manhattan Drive where we're doing a lot of directed patrols. Again, trespass, that is tightly wed to the unhoused crisis that we have here in the city. We respond to a lot of complaints of trespass and at times have to take enforcement action in that regard. There's some people that just refuse to adhere to areas, specifically those that are privately owned, to remain away from. Public assist, again, another murky area of police data, but this is any time that someone from the public calls and needs assistance in some regard. Mental health issues, again, this is not lost on anyone on the police commission. The number of people that are suffering in the community because they are either have separated away from some type of service, have not been introduced to a service, or are service resistant in the moment. These are particularly areas or incidents where we're leaning into the work with our partners with the street outreach team or community support liaisons to do those reunifications with service or introduction to service providers. Found lost property is what it is. Welfare checks, we see a small decrease there, assisting other agencies that could be doing something for another police department or perhaps checking on a family for Department of Children and Family Services. And then traffic enforcement is up slightly. But that's really a catchment of the incidents in the downtown, top 10 incidents in the downtown over the last few years. Similar slide, this is just the arrest activity. Again, arrest on warrant. That's a sharp increase. Really what this is reflective of is the courts just taking different action and issuing arrest warrants for people that fail to appear or other non-compliance. Unlawful trespass is, again, one of our top charges in the downtown area. Retail theft, simple assault, violations of conditions of release is up. Again, that's a 42% increase. Disorderly conduct and aggravated assault, it's down, but that number is really negligible. It's not down by a huge percentile. Burglary and then domestic. Next slide, please. This is a heat map to really show our activity in the downtown district. So the illustration on the left side of the screen is the calls for service that are received by the police department from members of the public between the hours of 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. at night. And then the illustration on the right, or the picture on the right, is officer-initiated activity in the same downtown district. So anytime that an officer is going out on a foot patrol, directed patrol, stopping a car, any type of discretionary action. And then the next slide will show those images laid over one another. And what I like to highlight here is that we are using our limited human resources in a very efficient manner. We're putting cops on our hotspots. We'll go to the next one. Similar graph, this is just the other side of operations. Downtown behaves differently at night, so from 6 at night until 6 in the morning. Again, calls for service from the public are on the left. Officer-initiated activity are on the right. And the next slide, please, are those intersected. So again, across all operations in uniform services, we are using our sworn staff and our community service officers to not only attend to each one of those calls for service from the public, but to be proactive in those same spaces. If we could go back to the report, Shad. Thank you. Also noted, probably you've seen our Detective Bureau are working a couple of high-profile incidents. We've got the open assault here from adjacent to City Hall, and then the gunfire incident that occurred a couple of Sunday mornings ago on St. Paul Street near College Street. I can say that we've updated the media release on the assault as of late with the limited details that we can share at this time. Detectives are working really hard on that investigation in concert with the state attorney's office and hope to bring that to resolution in the near future. Another case that they're also working or putting a great deal of hours into is the assault that led to a gunfire incident on St. Paul Street. Detectives are working with a lot of ambient video sources to identify everyone that was involved and to bring resolution to that matter. This work takes a ton of time. When you have two active investigations like this, one always prevails. It's usually the best lead that comes in, but they are working long hours on this, and we hope to have them resolved and have more public-facing content on both of those incidents in the near future. And then lastly is just kind of an update on where we are in terms of headcount. So as of today, we have 61 sworn officers employed by the Burlington Police Department. We have re-engineered our approach to marketing job opportunities with the police department. I'm pretty optimistic about having received 22 applications for the position of police officer since June 1st, 2025. Right now, what we're doing is screening applicants that would potentially attend the Vermont Police Academy in February of 2026. Our goal is to have 4 officers in that class, and typically, in order to hire 4 officers, we'd probably need about 150 applicants to screen. So hopefully we can make those metrics work. I just want to call out that our executive manager, Shannon Trammell, she's really done a huge amount of work in trying to advance our social media presence. We know that that's an effective space to be in. She's also advanced our contract with some digital marketing, whereby I'll use the fair as an example. We have a recruitment booth that opens at the fair tomorrow, and we have done some intentional digital marketing in the Essex area, specifically around the fair. We will monitor traffic to our career site during the event and then afterwards to see really was the investment of our time and fiscal resources in doing an event at the fair, is that really supported as an evidence-based approach to our recruitment strategy. And we'll use that in a similar way when we do tabling events at college and other events. And then I just wanted to call out recently, through some engagements here in town, I was able to meet 2 individuals that are currently in Burlington that have an interest in serving in public safety. This is literally talking to people while at the Queen City Police Foundation fundraiser concert, or that was one, and then another was in a conversation with a Burlingtonian about young people being interested in potentially serving. And it's an opportunity to sit down with folks, especially explain to them what the job is really about, what the values of the organization stand for, facility tours, getting a feel for them, and then inviting them in to do a ride-along. Because I wouldn't want anyone to apply to our police agency without really understanding who we are as a culture, being able to ask candid questions of officers that are doing the job that they hopefully aspire to do. And this is more of the hands-on, really recruitment and almost headhunting that we're going to need to do in order to find the right candidates to serve here in Burlington. And then lastly are some bullet points on some policy and direction initiatives that we have. Soon we'll have written guidance as to related to 4 incident categories that either street outreach or our community support liaisons will be the primary responders to, depending on danger acuity. Those incident types are mental health incidents, welfare checks, overdose, and suicidal persons. I just want to call out the strong partnership that we have with the designated agency with Howard, and then their agency really stepping up and taking on a primary responding role in this space, because really this is all part of what came out of the 2020 vote, is how many sworn police officers do you need and what could other professionals do? And a lot of that apparatus was built at the BPD, but it was built at a time that was really more of a crisis and rather chaotic. Now we've got time to do it in a methodical way, evaluate some of these outcomes through data, and then tweak any policy guidance moving forward to see what does work here in Burlington. So we're excited about that. We're especially excited about it for our sworn officers. Anytime that we can get incident count off of their plate, that's better for them. We'll also be launching a web-based policy management software application. So right now, all of our policies essentially are held on a shared drive in the department in PDF form. There's little by way of sign-off by employees that they've reviewed the policies. There's just the old school way of moving those policies into other folders when we archive them. It's not web-based. This new policy software application is web-based. It's very secure, and it does the archiving, the employee sign-off. We can have training modules, and we can in addition to our directives, we can have memos and other resources that officers can access in the field because the application is web-based. So very excited about that project. Continued improvements to the police department website. I share your same concerns about the police commission website. Always we're trying to leverage data when making operational and physical decisions. And then continue policy development to bring the department into full compliance with the state models and mandates. I see this as a critical role as an interim chief to have kind of the house in order for the next permanent chief. So they have a good, clean, solid slate to work from. With that, that sums up my chief's report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief. Does the commission have any other questions or comments?
Yes.
Okay, hold on one second. I can't see who's on, who's got, okay, got lots of hands up. I'll start at my left, so Commissioner Comerford.
Yes. Chief, do you have any data that looks at the ages of folks who are being arrested? And if you do, could you bring that to the next time?
Yes, we've actually begun working up some juvenile data because that's germane to some of the incidents that are under investigation now, and it's always of interest to us. And I see a lot of value in trying to advance some work in looking at some youth violence interruption strategies that other communities use.
And also bring some data on gang activity?
Okay, that may be a little more anecdotal, but we can figure something out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Comerford. Commissioner Cox.
Thank you. I just had a couple of thoughts. One is I know that the street outreach is not employed by the police department, but they do work closely in conjunction with the police and with the CSLs. And I was wondering if there was a way to get their data in terms of hours, however, this one graph that you have where it's the amount of time that you have people down there, that I thought that might be like a useful add-on because they really do work so closely with the police department.
Certainly, Howard does share on a quarterly basis some activity data. I mean, they're completely de-identified. They have their own, for a lot of really great reasons related to HIPAA, their own database that they use, but we do get quarterly data from the designated agency as to their activity. So I'll be happy to track that down and bring it in, probably be at the end of quarter 2.
That'd just be great additional information because it, it's in some ways the work that they do is very similar to this CSL and CARES team. The other question that I had is, I know that there's changes afoot depending on what the outcome of like reduction in Medicaid and so forth. And so people that are now getting services, psychiatric appointments, things like that, may lose that. And I don't know if you thought about that at all. I know, like, for example, the Howard Center's shutting down Westview, which has been their community center, and they're actually shifting it to a different location, but a lot of people are going to feel displaced. And sometimes then when people have psychiatric conditions feel displaced, then there's more potential for disruption. And I was wondering if you thought about all of this and then what's to come in the future as access to Medicaid gets shut down by the federal government.
I happened to have met with the CEO of Howard yesterday, Sandy McGuire, and I know that there's a lot of things that they're considering, And I leave it to the professionals in those spaces to really deliberate upon that and think about where they're going to use those resources. But I will say that we've got a strong commitment with street outreach. We know that they're funded for this fiscal year, and we work with them hand in glove, to your point. So at least we're still going to have that resource if there is greater instability in that population in the coming months.
I also just have one other quick question. I'd been on a quick tour of the new mental health walk-in urgent care. It's at One Prospect. And I was wondering, I sort of asked them and they sort of replied, but I didn't have clarity on it. But are there instances where officers might take someone who just seems to be in need of some more immediate mental health support, but aren't really committing a crime? Do they ever, police officers, like take someone there to the urgent care?
So the urgent care, I understand that it is a great resource. Howard shared that the usage data there is quite high. I will just remark from an operational perspective, it's open essentially business hours. So we always try to intersect either a CSL or a street outreach worker with anyone that might be suffering and in need of that voluntary space. So it would actually be one of those entities that are doing that transport. So I can't say that officers are necessarily getting folks there, but I think the ecosystem that we have here in Burlington that's responding to the incidents are making sure that those type of resources are available to people that are in need and are willing to go to a place.
Great. Thank you very much. I know it's all very complicated, and you guys are doing a good job. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cox. Commissioner Finneran?
Thanks. Are any of the 22 applications since June from potential lateral transfers, or would they all be new recruits?
1 lateral, 21 new recruits.
Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Finneran. And thank you, Chief, for answering those questions. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? Hearing none, we will move on to commendations. We have one commendation that was submitted, and it reads, "Hi, my name is Shelley, and I would like to just tell you, you have an amazing person on your staff, Bridget. I've worked with Bridget before, but today she really helped me out. She really knows how to communicate with people. She knows what human lives are about, and you have an amazing person. She is wonderful, so please keep her on your team, and I want to say thank you very much. You people are always helpful, and you're always there for us. Thank you." And that is an anonymous commendation, so thank you, Chief.
I just want to call out so the commission's aware that is a CSL.
Okay.
So Bridget's Community Support Liaison.
Excellent. Thank you for that context. I appreciate it. We have no other commendations. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda, Commission Chair nominations. So are there any nominations for Commission Chair? Yes, Commissioner Finneran.
I'd like to nominate you, Robert Tepper.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Finneran. Anybody else? Okay. Hearing none, we will move on to the Commission Chair vote. All those in favor of myself, Robert Depper, as the Commission Chair until the next vote or next calling of the vote, say aye.
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 Okay, there appear to be 4 with myself, Commissioner Genorio, Commissioner Finneran, and Commissioner Fast. Appear to be the aye votes. Did I miss anybody?
I think you missed me.
Okay, and Commissioner Cox.
And me.
Okay, and Commissioner Comerford, so it is unanimous. So thank you very much. That passes, and I will remain the chair until y'all find somebody better.
I would like to suggest co-chairs. It's become very common now in many organizations to share that responsibility. And I'd like us to consider that.
Okay, I appreciate that thought. If we would like to put it on the agenda for discussion for the next meeting, would actually be my preference, unless anyone has an objection to that. Okay. Hearing no objection, I will make a note of that to put that on the agenda for the next meeting. Okay. Thank you for that, that suggestion, Commissioner Comerford. And I will move on to the next item on the agenda. The next meeting date is September 23rd, 2025. And with that, do I hear a motion to adjourn? I will simply move to adjourn us. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Appears to be unanimous. Thank you very much for your time, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you.